Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Times Network Digital India Summit and Awards 2016. As we all know, Digital India is one of the most ambitious projects of the government of India, and they have indeed put their heart and soul to make India a digitally empowered knowledge economy. The Times Network has championed this cause from the very first year and has instituted this property to closely follow the developments to witness this dream being realized. We are indeed really honored that this year also the Union Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, has graced this momentous occasion as the guest of honor. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of the Times Network, our distinguished guests, and the audience. I would like to invite the President, News and Editor-in-Chief, ET Now and Times Now, Arnab Goswami, for the welcome address.
Honorable Minister and dear friend, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, it is great to see you this morning. And on behalf of everyone at the network and on behalf of everyone assembled here this morning, I would like to sincerely thank you for your encouragement. In the Narendra Modi government, you have been entrusted with one of the greatest responsibilities, which is of Digital India. You have the statistics, our audience knows where we are poised. Numbers of 50 crore, 60 crore no longer seem impossible for us. Bandwidth is opening up, and with the opening up of bandwidth, people like me in the media industry look forward to a world where people will watch with ease. I think, Mr. Prasad, the year 2017 and 18 can be the inflection point for Digital India. And we wish you all the very best for it. Thank you.
It's time now to invite our guest of honor, Union Minister for Communications and Information Technology, to deliver the keynote address. Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, every government comes with its own program. But certain programs become transformational. Digital India, Make in India, Skill India are all transformational programs designed to transform. And what is the essence of it? Not only to create a digital-enabled society, but to create a digitally empowered India, enlightened India. That is the main theme of Digital India. This instance I have quoted many times, I wish to repeat. One day I was very busy in my office. I found a lawyer friend of mine had given me 4 or 5 calls. He wanted to talk to me urgently. And I want this audience to know how India is changing. He was a big lawyer who had a big fat car which got a puncture in some busy Delhi road. He left his car in disgust, went to his office. What to do? Went on Google, searched how many puncture walas are in Delhi. 50 numbers came. Again, sent how many are closer to GK1. 3 numbers came. He sent a message to one, this is my problem, can you do something? He said, wait, I'm coming to my office. He came, took the key, and after 1 hour sent him a WhatsApp. This is the photograph of your tube. It has 3 big nails inside. I'm going to repair it and come in an hour's time. This is my bill, kindly keep it ready. Now this India is changing. No one taught them. But they could realize they can foment their business by this instrument. And that is the Digital India's biggest tribute, which I'm aiming for. It's a new India emerging. Let us celebrate this India. Let us salute in India. India truly is getting empowered. India truly is getting enlightened. Thanks a lot.
May I now invite Mr. Jay Chen, CEO, Huawei India, to deliver his address. Welcome, sir.
Namaste. It's my honor to have the opportunity today to meet the Indian ICT industry. We want to leverage Huawei's the global strengths in the ICT to bring the India much closer to its the digital dream and enhance its presence in the world. We want to share our advanced know-how and the resources with the India to help increase India's share of the global economy. Digital India needs the joint efforts from the government, from industry, from the media, from society. Let's work together, strive for that. I want to end my speech by wishing Digital India Summit all the success. Thank you.
Now, ever since the government has embarked on the Digital India program, expectations have run sky high to see changes on the ground that Digital India initiatives are going to bring to improve the lives of people like you and me. Now, how far are we from our goals, and what are the issues that we have to address today? We are discussing exactly that in our inaugural session. We are calling it Delivering on the Digital India Dream, the story so far. And for this session, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists onto the stage. First up, we have Arvind Gupta, National Head, IT Cell, BJP. Amit Midha, President, Dell Asia Pacific and Japan, and Chairman, Dell Emerging Markets. Noshir Kaka, Managing Director, McKinsey India. Amit Jain, President, Uber India. Satyan Gajwani, Managing Director, Times Internet. R. Chandrasekhar, President, NASSCOM. Carl Mehta, Founder and CEO, Edcast. Joe So, Global CTO, Enterprise Business Group, Huawei. And our moderator for this session is Supriya Srinath, Chief Editor News, ET Now.
Thank you very much, all of you, for being here with us. It's been a pleasant morning, and we do hope to slip into the afternoon with equal gusto. And it's not going to be easy to moderate 8, perhaps one of the best speakers in this field on the subject. So it is indeed my pleasure to be amongst 8 people I greatly admire as far as Digital India and things around that is concerned. But thank you very much for being a special audience. And this is the second edition of the Digital India Summit. I think it's a good time to step back and analyze what have we achieved in the last 1 year, and where does the journey go on from here. But before I do all of that, I think it's important to also step back and assess why Digital India. It's a powerful slogan indeed, but why is that slogan just so important? And Noshir, if I may begin talking to you about the fact, why is it so important to reinforce Digital India? A lot of people, perhaps outside, maybe not in this room, will believe it's an elitist concept. But of course, this is set to change our lives. Just to put it in context, really, why is Digital India so crucial?
Just a couple of things I would say in response to that question. Digital India is far beyond digital government. Digital India, done well, has the potential to transform the lives of India, period. It has the potential to add 20 to 30% of our incremental GDP growth in the next 10 years. To put that in perspective, it's Make in India squared. It is 2.5 times the industry that my dear friend Mr. R. Chandrasekhar here represents from NASSCOM in terms of what the impact it has on India. And I am so pleased that the government has actually taken this up, because if you wanted to transform lives of India, there is no better way to do it than empowered through technology.
Fair point indeed. No better way to do it than empower through technology. But Arvind, this question is now coming your way. How are you going to essentially assess the progress, assess the success of some of what has been done already?
Yeah, it's a very relevant thing to ask at about a 2-year anniversary, if you may call it, of Digital India, the government. See, the highways, as I call them, need to be laid out, and they are being laid out at a very, very rapid pace. The cars that will run on those highways, the instruments, already we've seen the investment in the electronic sector from 11,000 crore go up to about 10 times, 1,10,000 crores. 11 crore handsets being made in India. So the prices will come down. And the destinations, which is the third part of Digital India, which is the startup entrepreneurship culture. At last count, I know Ravi and NASSCOM we can all keep debating the number of startups in India. I put it at 18,000. Somebody will say 12,000. I think the number of startups have quadrupled, and the outcomes are there. And the one big piece that we keep actually ignoring a little bit is how much emphasis is being laid on local language content and standardization of local languages in handsets. Because 86% of India consumes content in languages other than English. Where we are, probably we should have been a lot more further ahead is the connectivity to the villages. And I think that's, apart from that, we are on target, ahead of target in many, many areas.
All right, on target, ahead of target, and of course, connectivity to the hinterland, to rural India is going to also be key and success of digital India. But let me just take this discussion to people who've got their skin in the game, so to say. And I do have a pleasure of having both Huawei and Dell on this. Joe, if I may begin with you, some of what Arvind said here, you know, we are on track. So at some point in time, some of the success areas have already been achieved. But from your perspective, which are the gaps that still remain to be filled up for digital India to be a real success?
Yes, let me share some of the story regards how other countries are building their digital divide networks, how to promote the economy. I'll give you one example, a good example in China. When China built the whole digital divide in China, everyone started their own. So today, we ended up with a lot of silos information where government cross-government collaboration was mostly not as effective as before. However, in the last few years, because of the smart city, okay, the driving forces from the smart city, everyone is looking at, well, we need to be smarter, okay? Then, therefore, you need to collaborate with a lot more departments. And therefore, you need to build a system that you build the interdependency of data in between the system. And that's where the challenge that India, I see, is moving into for the future.
Fair point indeed. Some of the challenges being spelled out there. But Amit, if I may talk to you about the success vis-a-vis the challenges, the gaps that still need to be filled. It's very good to have a slogan like that because that is really the blitzkrieg. That's the inflection point, so to say, for a campaign like this. But if I may ask you, what are the challenges that you would want the government to address up front?
Success, I mean, I think Honorable Minister talked about a lot of success in terms of manufacturing. You know, we ourselves have been manufacturing here for 8 years now. Look at how the spread of the information technology happening across the country. I think those are all positive pieces. But here is the challenges would be. One, digital security becomes a huge challenge as you digitize more and more parts of your economy. You know, Dell, you may think of us as an infrastructure company, but today we protect more than $1 trillion of digital assets. So this is very sensitive and very important area for us. The second area would be, how do you create policy where cities not only can be livable, but more inclusive and more digital? And these are the challenges that not many cities have been able to figure out. And so you could follow a path of elitist where digital economy lead to success for a few, or how do you create a much more inclusive society where technology is for the human, not the other way around?
Satyan, because you have the liberty of being a global insider here on this panel, I must ask you this question. The point that Amit made, you know, we no longer have a choice whether we need to digitize or not. It is imperative upon us that we do. Now, if I may talk to you about how do you make digital India more pervasive, more inclusive? What are the best global practices that India can perhaps pick up from? Because if the digital divide has to be bridged, we perhaps have to pick up from the best in the world. What would you share on that front?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about the digital economy around the world is actually the lack of government involvement to see it happen. I think, you know, despite, you know, these types of efforts are wonderful because it raises attention to what, you know, will probably be one of the largest drivers of our economy in the next 10, 20 years. But if you look at most markets around the world, the primary role of the government has been simply to enable access. And enable access as openly and cost-effectively and affordably as possible. Once that's done, actually it's best that the government stays out. Most of the innovation that you see when it comes to anything about digital services has come from entrepreneurs. I think this government gets it. Their focus really needs to be on enabling the infrastructure, making it cost-effective, and then setting ground rules that are fair and enable innovation and competition. Once that happens, everything else will kick in.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, if I may get you on the same point, like Satyan pointed out, the gaps are very visible and the gaps are obvious. Have you been on track of filling them?
I think we have to recognize that we have a lot going for us, and there may be some gaps, but I don't think that we should necessarily be looking at, what are the best practices or what are the best models globally. I think we can aspire to do much more than that, because we are at a unique point where the power and capability of technology allows us to solve some of the most persistent economic problems that the country has had in radically different ways, which have never been done before.
True.
If you look at which are the areas where we still need to have some concerns about, I think it is that are we prepared enough for these newer solutions? Are we prepared enough from the point of view of the policy interventions, from the point of view of the infrastructure interventions? The private sector, I believe, is capable of delivering on much of this dream, but those pathways, I think, need to be made clear. That's why issues like net neutrality, which enable the highways of innovation to be kept open, are so important. I think that's the area where perhaps government can do a lot. The incentives and, giving out some doles and making some investment is a comparatively smaller part. But I think freeing up this pathway is
really
critical.
pave the ways is what you're saying, is what the government needs to do, and then of course the private sector and innovators in India can take over. Talking about two such innovators, I've got Carl Mehta and I've got Amit Jain right here on my panel, and I must begin with you, Carl, because it's all very good to say global best practices, what can be adopted, but India is a very unique market. I mean, people have tweaked their marketing, their brand, their sales strategy in this country here. If I may ask you, for technology company like yourselves, what is it that you expect? What kind of a role are you expecting the government to play? And because India is such a peculiar market, how different would the digital revolution here be, or has been in the last 2 years vis-a-vis anywhere else in the world?
Sure. When we look at India, I think India's approach of how we build up the technologies here can actually transform not just India, but also all the developing markets. So when I'm looking at Africa, we are looking at how we solve problems in India can be applicable to over 5 or 6 billion people. So how the Prime Minister says that technologies that are made not just in India, but made for India, that is very transformative, can actually play a very good role for helping the rest of the world. From a government role standpoint, totally agree with Satyen that the government's role is very limited in most of the countries which has really gone through a whole transformation, and digital society is only limited to providing an open access, a fair policy and an open policy, and then let the entrepreneurs. So I think the Skill Up India movement, the Startup India movement is very, very critical to get it right, and that's all we expect from the government.
Amit, you want to come in on that? I don't know if you really agree if the government has a very limited role to play, having been on the other side of some amount of that. But you want to come in on the role that the government should be playing, and especially for technology company like yourselves in Netcast?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think I agree with some of the points that have been made that digital India is not a choice. I mean, that is absolutely true. Digital India is absolutely required, be it to remove poverty levels, be it to increase our country GDP. That's absolutely true. As I break this up into a few buckets, the first bucket, which Satyen touched upon, is digital infrastructure. It's a combination of government and private partnership to say what infrastructure do we need to enable technology companies. There's a second element about digital literacy. And this is about how do you get people who've never used a smartphone, who've never used maps, who've never used email, who've never used anything from a technology perspective to use that. So how do you train more and more people? The third element is financial inclusion. How do you get people more on the financial system? You have to get on the financial system to enable a digital economy, to enable digital commerce, to enable digital India. The fourth element is payments and seamless payments. I would say this is one area where the government can do a whole lot more. As we look at our business model, I mean, we are a company that's in 60 countries. We did not have cash as a method of payment in any other country, but we have enabled cash in India because users in India demand it. Why do users in India demand it? Because there are certain policies and places cash is the predominant mean of payment. So how do we change some of that and move to a digital society, a cashless society, and how do public regulations and private companies work together to issue the address of fraud and risk, which enables why some of the regulations are in place, while pushing forward on getting more and more users comfortable with digital payment methods.
So many people believe this holy jam trinity is going to be a big catalyst in this Digital India initiative. Are you somebody, I know you wanted to make a point, but you want to add to that? Sure.
Yeah. To be honest, like 10 years ago, I think that if you forget your wallet, okay, at home, you probably would go back and get it. Today, how many of you, if you forget your mobile phone, you would go home and get it? I will. Can we raise a hand? I just want to see how many people would actually go home and get it. You see? I think the mobile phone today is a lot more important than my wallet today. I think there are some positive side, the advantage of having cashless environment. There's also a cybersecurity. In a lot of places like Hong Kong, China, Japan, Korea, we spend a lot of time in a lot of experience investment into how are we going to protect the securities on your phone. Right? For example, I get 1 million RMB protection if my password or something is being stolen from my account. It's not my fault. So someone is going to compensate me for 1 million loss, okay? Not US dollar, but RMB, if the fault is not mine, okay? Right. So I think that you really have to think about the whole cashless things. It's not as simple as you think. So I think India is moving into that direction. I'm glad to see that.
On that note, I'm going to thank you very much, panelists, for being here. Thank you very much.